music. But right now, if you hear music in the background, that is my unpaid for DJ going on at the Repast. God bless the child who has her own. One day we'll get our own studio. All right. But now for the beginning of the program, we're going to make this quick because we have people waiting. So we always begin by honoring our ancestors. In church, they call it invocation, but we call it libations. And so we're going to pour water into the earth, and that handles those energies. We'll handle the other energies of fire and air during the skip of Exodus to Mars. But for right now, we're going to honor the ancestors. We're going to start off, of course, with Malcolm X, because he's the one that had the idea, go to the United Nations. This is human rights, not civil rights. Please. And so thank you. Yes. And then, of course, we had yesterday when our sister Empress Chi did libations as well. And she called names that I don't want to say we ever forgot. We did not forget Callie House, Ashe. Not Queen Mother Moore, Ashe. We did not forget Sister Njiri, Ashe. It's just so many sad things that happen. The person who usually pours libations, Queen Mother Oshandara, that hurt, Ashe. I mean, don't they all hurt? Don't they all hurt? But I am supposed to be taking the place of Queen Oshandara. I'm not ready or worthy. We're going to call some more ancestors like Coleman Young, Ashe. We're going to call even Irma Henderson, Ashe. And right now in your chat, put in the name of an ancestor that you want to call. Call them to this moment, because in this moment, we're trying to prevent genocide, and we need all the help we can get on both sides of Jordan. So for all of those on the other side, help us in this moment. And for them, we say Ashe, Ashe, and Ashe. Okay, there we go, spilling water. All right, now, our first speaker. This is going to be great because it was mentioned yesterday. What happens when the dollar isn't worth a penny? And that's called inflation, y'all. And we're now in a little war again. I mean, it happens. We knew it was February. We were counting down saying, if you ended one war, it's just going to be a matter of time before you start a new one. And sure enough, oh well. Anyway, so here we are. Here we go again. And if the dollar becomes worth a penny, what do we do? We're asking for reparations. Quite honestly, reparations could cause inflation and stock market loss temporarily, but because we are transitioning into the natural order of the universe, which is a Black universe, and as you transition into that, there is going to be some correction. So as that correction happens, where can you put your money as a safe haven? And there's stocks, there's bonds, there's all these kinds of things, but we have Nate Talbot from the Detroit Blockchain Center to talk to us about cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency, what's that? I can't believe in anything I can't see. Oh, please, you believe in something you can't see all the time if you believe in God. So you can believe in cryptocurrency, not saying you're worshiping it, but you shouldn't worship money anyway. So I'm going to give you a little bit more about Nate. And then we're going to have him bring to you the information that is so necessary. when it comes to learning about NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens. What's that, Nita? Okay, you're going to find out. You're going to learn about non-fungible tokens. You're going to learn about how all of the laws that are impacting reparations can be changed. Reparations doesn't have to cost a whole lot of money. You just have to rearrange the economy. And the part that we're talking about rearranging is not as hard as everyone thinks. So we're going to have Nate talk to you a little bit about what the Detroit Block Center does and educate us about the revolution that's happening in digital currency and a meta universe. Nate Talbot, y'all. Thank you, audience.
Hello, can everybody hear me all right?
Good.
Perfect. So thank you, Anita, for that warm welcome and inviting me here to speak about everything. I did have a small visual presentation I could present if I can. Is it all right if I share my screen? I will hit boom. And I think you guys should all see that now.
Okay, beautiful.
Let me go into the slideshow here. All right. So again, thank you for asking me to come out. And I've presented a very short little presentation to talk to you guys about crypto and the case for freedom, because that's what it's all about, and why Bitcoin, crypto, including NFTs and everything crypto, is the answer for this. Anita did an awesome job already telling you who I am. I am the executive director of the Detroit Blockchain Center. We're based here in Detroit, Michigan, with a core focus on education. While it's tied to blockchain, we really focus on financial literacy and digital literacy, because that's sort of the core of everything. We're a Michigan nonprofit, so we do this just to do it because it's needed. So, like Anita was saying, from what I was just hearing, the question about reparations and, does it have to be a financial, and what do you do with money, and does it cost a lot, is really key factor. And it really goes down to, before you can figure out what reparations are needed, required, and how it can be done, you really sort of have to go back to like the simple question, which is, what is money, right? And if you look through most definitions, money is a current medium of exchange in the form of coins, banknotes, at one time clamshells, anything people feel like can be exchanged. It's about ownership of something and being able to transfer the value of ownership from one entity to another entity, right? So very basics. What is money first? There are different types of money. Historically, you have commodity money, right? And this is something that possesses value on its own without any kind of government or central authority giving it. Gold, silver are some of the best known forms of money. Gold stretches back 5,000 years and has some benefits, which is it's very hard to manipulate, which makes it sound money. But then it's very also hard to transact, right? If I came to you and you were selling something and you were like, it's an ounce of gold, measuring the gold to make sure it's an ounce, making it divisible. If I only had 10-ounce piece of gold, and then verifying its authenticity, right? How do you know it's really gold and not some kind of gold colored other metal? But commodity money is the oldest form of money we've used throughout history. Then you have what our current system is based on, which is called fiat money. And this is 100% based on government mandates that its money is legal tender. And it's typically backed by the quote, full faith and credit of the government. And so you have to have a full faith and credit in the government. A lot of people still think that like the US dollar is backed off of gold. And, you know, if you familiar, that hasn't been true. Theoretically, it hasn't been true in around 100 years. And technically, it hasn't been true since the 70s when Nixon took us off the gold standard. So right now, I heard Anita also saying like, oh, I don't believe in anything I can't touch. Well, what backs your dollar that's in your pocket? You can't really touch it. That doesn't redeem anything besides trust. And then the last newest form of money are cryptocurrencies. And unlike fiat, which is based on government mandates, crypto is based on math and technology, right? The only thing you have to believe in for crypto to work is 1 + 1 = 2. If you believe that, then you believe in math, you believe in the entire crypto graphic system that systems like Bitcoin run on. A benefit of crypto is it's very hard to manipulate, just like commodity money was, but it's also very, very easy to transact, just like fiat money is. Although you'll notice I've sort of emphasized the easy piece of easy to transact. This is still a new technology, and so easy is relative, right? If you're familiar with working social media and you stay up on trends, it's probably not too hard for you to figure out. If you're still hesitant on using debit cards and credit cards, you know, like any new technology, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to follow. But the thing with any of these systems is they're all sort of based off of trust. No money works without all of the participants in the system trusting it. People trusted that gold is worth money. I mean, why is gold the sort of standard? And it's just because if you and me are transacting with each other, we both believe that gold will hold its value. Again, like as I stated with fiat, fiat is entirely based on the trust of the government running it. And so if you're a US citizen, you have to trust in the full faith that the US government will back the money and your claim to whatever value you're trying to transfer. If you're in a majority of countries throughout the world that definitely don't have any kind of trustful money, and you'll see them going through things like hyperinflation, you know, you can't trust the money. And what do? How do you preserve that wealth? So it's about trust. And the big differentiator between cryptocurrencies, and I'm going to focus specifically on Bitcoin because we'll get into that a little later, but for the sake of argument, I'm going to focus on Bitcoin for most of the conversation. The difference between something like Bitcoin and something like the US dollar is there is nobody you have to trust. Bitcoin is a trustless system, right? It just allows two parties, you and me, can interact with each other directly. We're not looking for a bank to verify either of our transactions. We're not looking for the full faith of a government to verify the transactions. We know 1 + 1 = 2, and that's all we really need. So what's the key issues? Understanding some of the problem. There's costs, right? In many cases, if you want to transfer money or claim your money, there's a lot of many times arbitrary fees that you have to pay. Think ATM fees, think your bank transaction fees. If you're trying to do remittances and send money across the border, there's abnormally high transaction fees using something like MoneyGram or Western Union. And these fees almost always are an arbitrary setting that abstract the value of the money that you're trying to maintain, right? Then there's a centralization issue. So you have, especially today's money, it's created and regulated by central banks and governments. They create money arbitrarily. If you were more than 2 years old, you've lived through everything with COVID, and you've seen the massive money printing they've been doing, trillions of dollars they've just printed out of thin air. They promote artificial inflation. Uh, a capitalist society is based on the need for its citizens to transact and buy things, to consume. And if you're trying to hold your money, save your money, well, you're not spending your money. And so they deliberately make the money more and more worthless year over year to incentivize you to get rid of the money and acquire things. And then it always empowers irresponsible leaders. We all know the saying, right? Power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And when you can control the money system, you control everything. And that's going to, especially at large scale, attract the most narcissistic and power hungry individuals into that. And even if they don't start that way, it definitely incentivizes them to become more self-serving. And then there's access, which is the biggest thing, especially for communities and peoples that have been historically cut off from financial systems, like Blacks in America, right? They have, we're either unbanked or you're underbanked. And it's easy to point this out when you look at what we would deem third world nations that don't have any kind of financial system to root on. But you don't have to go to a desperate area in the globe. You can find that. We can find that right here in Detroit, Michigan, where people are unbanked. They don't have access. Again, COVID has been a prime magnifying glass to sort of identify some of these issues. Bank branches have shut down all across urban centers across the country. So if it was already hard enough for you to bank, now you don't have a physical bank for you to go to, or you're underbanked, which means you have very limited access to a financial system. And again, you don't have to go to developing nations to find this. You can look at your closest urban center and you'll see the same thing happening. Think payday loans. This is predatory lending, right? You already don't have enough money. That's why you need a loan. And then they put you in a system where you're forever indebted into this payment system. So how do you fix access to a financial freedom? Oh, sorry. So the key question here, right? Are we being genocided? And I think most likely people would say the answer is yes, we're definitely being financially genocided. And this is happening to all people. But then when you take the all people spectrum and you look at, again, who has been most historically affected, especially in this country, you're going to always come back to Black Americans being severely cut off. And that is usually done through generational wealth building platforms. And this is why most people realize, right, building generational wealth, home ownership, land ownership, property ownership are key fundamentals in doing that. But even though we know this, and even though for generations, for hundreds of years, we've found different ways to work within this existing system to build generational wealth, you have to look at every time we build something, right? Every time we try to gain access to something, every time we acquire a little bit of anything, and even when you have incentives based on a government system trying to help, it still doesn't help us. It gets torn away. And a key thing to remember in any situation is it's only yours if you can defend it, right? You can have all the gold in the world. Can you keep it, right? You can have all the land in the world. Can you keep it? And this is a major foundation of all modern democracies. And it's the primary purpose really for most democratic government systems. It's to defend a sovereign individual's property rights. So what do you do when there is no system defending your particular property rights? And this is how Bitcoin and crypto really come in and solve a problem. It creates a way for us to do a medium of exchange between each other without the need for any banks, government agencies, or third parties to come in. And it allows us to send, receive currency information. We can transact with low fees and in a fraction of the time with absolute certainty that the system's doing what you expect it to, without worrying about a third party coming back in and taking away those property rights. I'll come back here for a second. So this is a core thing. This is Bitcoin proper. When you look at crypto in general, that can expand out. I'm sure many people here have heard about NFTs. And they wonder what they are. Many people think NFTs are just digital pictures living on a blockchain, whatever that really is. It's confusing on what the value is. But that's not what an NFT is. It's not a JPEG. It's not a picture. If you buy or sell JPEGs, you're not buying or selling pictures. An NFT is just a bundle of metadata, right? Just information stored in a blockchain the same way Bitcoin is. It's a trustless system. It's based off of math. Once you put information into the NFT on a blockchain, now it becomes immutable. It can't be changed. And if it's in an open system, then you can see and verify its entire history. And while JPEGs and images and now music is starting to become popular, while those can be used, I want you to start to think bigger. What other things do you currently have, especially when you start thinking about property rights, that you need to verify, that you need to be able to have a trustless system and be able to interact with? So if you own a car, right? How do you own the car? You have a little title. All that title is metadata verified by the state that the ownership record of this vehicle is whatever. You can take that title information, and instead of having a piece of paper that can be forged, fraudulent, or inaccurate, you can put it on a blockchain. And once it's there as an NFT, now your car title is accurate. And so when you're going to buy or sell a car, you can just verify it without needing to trust a Carfax or some other third party. Think bigger than vehicles. Think of property. The only reason you think you own your house is because you're given a deed to your home, which is just a third party backed by the government verification of metadata about the history of the house. You can put this as an NFT. Now you can transact in property directly. You don't need the verification of a government. If you've ever bought and sold the house, think of all those value extracting middlemen, right? Pulling value from you when you're just you and me just want to transact. I have to hire a lawyer to verify the contract information. I have to hire a title insurance company to make sure all the information in the deed is correct. You have paralegals. You have all these different entities to verify information that with modern technology can just be set and done, and disappears a lot of this, a lot of the value extraction and trust that we needed to have at one point within the system. And again, the key thing of this all is just being able to allow two parties to transact with each other without the needing to trust each other. You don't have to trust the party you're interacting with. All you have to do is trust in basic math. And so generally speaking, that's what Bitcoin is. That's what crypto are. This is how it's that trustless, permissionless system that allows the that makes this such a powerful and uh, um, revolutionary technology. A lot of focus gets put into the money value, right? The price. Uh, and that's okay, right? But a key thing to remember with all of this, and it's a big distraction, is the price does not equal value, right? Something can be priced expensively and the value is way lower. Something can be priced cheaply and the value is much higher. And so a thing I tell everybody is, you can come for the riches, stay here for the revolution. This is really a revolution that we can utilize. This is the first time in history that the the people, the most cut off and excluded people, have access to a system without the need for a higher permissioned entity to come in. And then because you're at the very beginning of a brand new asset class, it also allows you an opportunity to build generational wealth that can't be seized. And that's the key piece. Generational wealth that can't be seized. A lot of people think this was theoretical, but if you're older than one and you've paid any attention to what's happening globally, you'll see this has been working. Venezuela has gone through massive hyperinflation. How do they preserve their wealth? They've moved to things, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Dash, Ethereum, to preserve their wealth as their dollars went to a penny, as Anita mentioned earlier. You look at what happened recently in Canada. Regardless of how you feel about the politics of it all, the federal government determined, you know what? We don't like what you're saying. No more mortgages, no more access to our financial system. And they've targeted people and they've shut off their entire access without due process, without being convicted. You just had to be suspected. This is what happens when you have to trust a central entity. And then the most recently, in the past week, you can look at what's happened in Ukraine and the Russian invasion there. And again, you don't even have to get into the politic piece. Their financial system has been cut off. People there have lost access to the ATMs. They've lost access to their financial systems, their credit cards. What do? Many of them have turned to a system like Bitcoin, where that allows them to receive money without needing a third party. There is no third party system to get cut down. And, one of the popular stories circulating is somebody was trying to get out. They were going to buy a car so they're in the middle of Ukraine. They needed to buy a car to get to the border. They couldn't access their bank accounts. And people sent them Bitcoin and they were able to purchase a car with Bitcoin and then flee the country. And so when you're talking about things like reparations, when you're talking about anything deriving from money, the real question is, again, why I started this way, what is money? What is value? And does reparations have to be a dollar amount, or can it be something more that will help fill in the generational wealth gap that's been economically forced upon us for 500 years going on. So crypto, the case for freedom. I kept this sort of short. I've probably introduced more questions than answers, which this is a series of rabbit holes. You'll definitely should have more questions. But in discussing this, we also wanted to leave plenty of time for people to have questions, get answers. I did not go into specifics of how any of this works. I didn't want to complicate the conversation, but if somebody here wants to know more, I'm definitely happy to go over that. So I'm happy to open the floor up. I don't know how you guys want to do questions and answers, but I know there's a Q&A or the chat. So are there any questions?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Hi, and a great presentation. I am currently involved in crypto. I
Nice.
got in, yeah, I got involved in like 19, I think, late 18, 19. But this
Okay.
is the question. I've joined a couple of YouTube communities about, you know how it is on YouTube.
Mhm.
Everybody's like great, excited. And this is the question I've asked, and no one has been able to answer me. How does crypto relate to our Constitution as far as Congress and money?
All right. Nice question. So the Constitution, there was actually a lot of discussion around what money was with the forming of the Constitution. And this was done with Hamilton, Jefferson. This was the whole debate about forming the Treasury Department. And so constitutionally, to give you the real quick answer, crypto is a constitutionally enabled act. The only difference between what's in the Constitution is uh, it outlined the Treasury Department, which said instead of people having to depend on these private money systems that existed before the Treasury Department, the US government would have a system where they would take gold, they would print money backed on the gold reserves, and that every US citizen or anybody who enacted and transacted with those dollars um, were able to know that if I held $1 that was printed by the government, I will be able to back then claim an equal amount of gold for that, right? But it was not a limiting factor. It was uh, it was sort of a support system. And
Hmm.
an important thing to realize pre that, we think money has sort of been the way it is now for a much longer time than it actually has been. Uh, we use what's called Keynesian economics right now,
Hmm.
which is this system's only maybe 60 years old or so. The dollarized system, even backed by gold, that whole concept just came out around the same time the US government was being formed. Adam Smith was sort of the father of modern economics. He's a guy
Hmm.
from England, wrote some books on it, sold Hamilton on the idea, which is why we have the Treasury Department. That was new. If you think of a 5,000-year history of economics, we're 300 years into this one system.
Right.
Uh, and then if you look at where we are now, when Nixon took us off the gold standard, that only happened in the 70s. That was 1971.
Hmm.
So 50 years from what we think has been this tried and true thing. And if you ask me, I think it's a failed experiment. I think there's too many issues
Definitely.
when you let humans just try to decide natural processes like inflation and deflation. Uh, but yeah, so constitutionally, crypto is a fully functional piece of all that. But I'll asterisk that with uh, crypto is a very broad term. And
Hmm.
so most cryptos out there probably aren't the same as when you think about Bitcoin. They're not alternatives to something like Bitcoin. Bitcoin's not the only one that functions like this. This is why I said earlier, I'm going to focus the wording on Bitcoin.
Hmm.
Many cryptos are securities. They're not money. They're not sound.
Oh Lord.
They're stocks.
Okay.
You're buying into a stock that you can get ripped off of, because a key thing with a system like Bitcoin, and this is just what you can sort of use as an evaluation tool, it should be open source. The code is open to everybody. It should be permissionless. Anybody can enter into the system, opt in or out of the system as they choose. It should be decentralized. There is not a central party making decisions
Hmm.
for it all. And of course, they should be secure, but we're going to just call that something that's an obvious, right? Um, Decentralization, where most of these systems, when you look at them, fall short. you know. So
Well, let me just say, I'm part of the XRP army. So when you said a lot of them are securities, I don't know if you know about that battle that's going on, but
I do, I do.
I'm part of the
But I mean,
XRP army.
XRP is an interesting case in that though, right? It's like, again, when you look at what securities are, and I'm definitely never going to be an advocate for the SEC.
Okay,
Right?
good.
We should not be judging current financial system based off of how orange groves were handled 100 years ago. But again, it's like the thing you just have to always look at, is it permissionless? Every aspect of it. Is it peer to peer? And is it, for me, a big thing is censorship resistant. Is it censorship resistant? Because that's where, especially in the context of today's conversation, about are we being genocide, when you're looking at reparations, again, we can get reparations tomorrow, right? It's not like we already know they just can print money. So it's not a money problem. The question is about property. Can you keep it? And that's why I brought up those examples on the screen. Rosewood, Black Wall Street, redlining, right? We've had things, whether the government helped us get them or we just built them ourselves. Can we keep them?
Right.
If we can't keep them.
I personally, as far as reparation payment goes, I agree with, the cryptocurrency is a new asset. I personally would like for us to receive some of our reparations in gold and silver. Because at the end, I just feel like everything pretty much is derived still from gold and silver. So that, that's just my opinion now. But listen, I don't want to hold others up. I appreciate your answer. And I'm going to reach out to you, your organization, to discuss it further, because I do have some other questions.
Please do. And on that tip, because I saw another question in there about what services does our nonprofit offer? This is the primary service we offer. We do free education, and we do meetups, we do educational events. We make myself or others on the team available for small group or one-on-one discussions on this. This is pretty much what I do. I sit around and talk about every aspect of the crypto ecosystem, whether it's NFTs, DeFi, Bitcoin. If you want to talk about XRP, we can talk about anything. So this is our primary service. This is what we do. But we also try to offer additional services. When words can't hit you, additional service to like startups and businesses. We try to help them find funding, if possible. We've done pitch fests, and provided people who are doing crypto or crypto friendly activities. So we try to provide resources, educational, financial, and any other kind we can support. We just have a very strong focus on the Metro Detroit area. So while we'll work with anybody anywhere, whatever we do, we usually try to make sure it ties back to the benefit of Metro Detroit in some shape, form, or fashion. Is there another question? If not, I see one in the chat about Monero I can ask on, but go ahead.
Hello, can you
Hello.
hear me?
I can.
Hi. You can?
Hey.
Okay. I've been hearing about crypto for a long time. I don't know very much about it. Been redlined with my transportation, property, everyth's been redlined. Resident of Detroit. My question is it possible, you know how you can, your car is redlined, you got a redline lease, then you bought it and it was redlined. High APR beyond the legal, whatever is legal, is beyond that. So you know how it works to the disadvantage of the car owner when you would ordinarily, your car would be paid off. I was hit by a car running through a red light. Now I've got a settlement and all of that. Is it possible? And ordinarily my car would be paid off, but the usury rate is beyond 8%. I don't even want to say what it is. It's so bad. But at the time, I didn't realize how bad it was because I just couldn't, I have to have transportation. So when I found out how bad it was, it's beyond what anybody could imagine. However, when whatever, when your car gets paid off, they say, oh, you use what's left over to buy a car. Is it possible to get a car with crypto? Are you able to work with a person through that system and get a car with crypto?
Yeah. It's a form of money. And so the most difficult piece when you're talking about just strictly transacting, it's just like anything, it's finding somebody who's willing to accept the crypto that you have in exchange for their car. But people have been doing transactions like that. The first one I know about, the first car that was sold for Bitcoin was in like 2000, I want to say 13. And it's no different than going in someplace and saying, well, will you accept Visa, or will you accept, some places don't even accept cash anymore, right? They're trying to get rid of cash. So yeah, that is the end game for many of these systems, the financial versions. The end game is not to buy Bitcoin, wait for the price to go up or something, turn Bitcoin back to fiat or US dollars, and then go buy something. The idea is get Bitcoin and use it, right? Go buy the thing with Bitcoin. So yeah, it's an absolute possible thing. There are systems now you can go to, there are like websites and things you can go to where people are listing homes, cars, general things in exchange for Bitcoin and some other cryptocurrencies.
So what I will do, reach out to you after this, and so we can talk further, because and also the other question I have is this: have you because I know you talk about you can only own, you think you own something but you don't. A friend of mine was telling me that the best way to own something is to get the mineral rights to that lot or whatever your house is on. Does that make it, do you know anything about that?
Yeah, anything with property. The thing is, yeah, a little bit. It depends on how you're going to define ownership, right? With anything, especially anything that's physical, so like property, your ownership only goes as far as that you can defend it. None of us have our own personal armies, I would assume. So even if you had underlying mineral rights, who's guaranteeing those rights? And if you could get them, it's going to be the state. You know what I mean? And so you're dependent on the state. What do you do when the state comes in and says, I want to take that? Eminent domain, civil asset forfeiture. Like I just said, what happened in Canada? Your rights are dependent, your property rights are dependent on whoever can defend it. And if you can't defend it, if you can't fight off the US government, right, for your property, I don't care what rights you have into it. When they come at your door with armed guards, can you defeat them?
So you're saying that's why gentrification is working so well, because that's what they're doing. Okay.
Yeah, this is how it works. This is how redlining works. This is, the state is really good for taking their responsibilities and shifting it off to private entities, right? That's what redlining was all about. The government didn't say you couldn't own something. They just shifted that to the banks and said, you decide who you give the loans to.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Or who you take it from.
Okay, so I will reach out to you after this, and
please do.
I will. Thank you
Yep.
so much.
I saw somebody mention them in there. I'll try to hit chat in between the live ones questions. They brought up Monero. Monero is a money. This is a privacy coin, so it's deemed a privacy coin. A big differentiation between Monero and Bitcoin is an open, public, transparent system. There's pseudonymity built into it, but it's not anonymous like many people think. Versus Monero is absolutely private. It's not transparent. You can't see anything. And people also often ask, like, well, doesn't that make sort of Bitcoin useless if it's not private? No, it doesn't. It was built that way by design. because the idea for Bitcoin was, if you look at like the 2008 financial crisis and many financial things, it's shrouded in secrecy. We don't know what anybody's doing. We don't know how much money they're printing or what they're doing with it. And even when you looked at a gold-backed system, how do you know how much gold there was? You know what they told you, but how do you know it? And you don't. And they're never going to let you know those kind of things. So Bitcoin was built transparent. You can see every single Bitcoin that was ever generated all the way back to the very first Satoshi, which is the smallest unit of a Bitcoin. It's like a penny, the concept of a penny. You can see every single one, where it's been and where it was throughout eternity. You know whether somebody's trying to spend the same one twice. You know if it's authentic. You know if it's forged. You know everything about it. So while privacy, something like Monero, is needed because we do want a high level of privacy in our transactions. This is why cash generally is king. The problem with the Monero is you don't know what's happening on the chain. You can't, it's not as trustless. You have to trust that everything that's been abstracted away from you is true. And so it's like we have to find a balance. How do we find that hybrid of a Bitcoin and a Monero type system? And if there's no other verbal questions, I see a couple
I
more.
did have a question.
Please go.
I hear an echo. My question goes to the NFTs. And you and I had a private conversation about how something like cells, our placentas, our plasma, our blood, how even our medical records could be an NFT. We own it instead of other entities, and then we can control our biological information and be able to profit from it ourselves instead of somebody else. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Perfect point. And I think this also ties back to that first question about crypto and constitutionality. So the Fourth Amendment guarantees you a right to privacy, right? And many people ask, well, why do I need it? I got nothing to hide. That is the old switcheroo, right? You got nothing to hide. Why don't you leave your curtains wide open all day and night at your house and your door wide open? You got nothing to hide, right? It's not about hiding something. It's about an inert ability to be able to be in control of what you share. Only you should be able to choose to share certain things. And that's true from your private articles, which is what the Fourth Amendment was all about, to your data and your information, down to your blood cells. Why shouldn't you control your blood cells? And so it's not a question of should we, it's a question of how. And so you'll notice when I was talking about everything earlier, I was talking about transacting, not necessarily money, right? Transaction is just sharing information between two parties. Maybe that's something like value information, which is what money is, or it could be your medical information or your personal information. And this is where things have gone wrong over the past 30 to 40 years. Probably longer, maybe even closer to 100 years. Every time you do something, you're forced to give over so much information that people don't need. I mean, just think about if you've ever been to a bar. What do they look at to verify your age? Your license. Well, what's on your license? Your name. Why do they need to know your name? They just need to know you're over 21. Your address. Why do they need to know where you live? They just need to know you're over 21. They find out all this information. We've become accustomed to giving up so much information. And then what do they do with that information? Think about when you open up your bank account. They copy your ID, they copy your social security number, they copy your billing information, they copy all this stuff. And what do they do with it? They slap it in a manila folder and go throw it in a drawer. That was bad enough because everybody in the bank had access to it. Now they slap it in a database, a very unsecure, a very non-modern, a very, have you looked at, go to the next time you're ever in a bank, look at their computing system. It's a joke. It's like from the 90s. And this is where all of your private information is stored. If you go to the hospital, right, and you're given over all this information, these are stored in these weak systems that are open to getting hacked, that people can take or don't get hacked, because there's very loose legislation and laws around what companies can do with the information you give over to them. And they're allowed to just pass off and sell. Everybody thinks about Facebook and Google selling your data. Not that they don't do it, but nobody thinks about Comcast, Verizon, 123.net. These are your ISPs. Did you know they do the same thing? They have more information on you than Facebook really does, because they see everything that leaves your computer in between. They see it all, and they sell that, right? And yeah, so of course, when you're talking about genetic records and all that, so how can NFTs, how can these things help? Well, you don't want to necessarily put all your information on a blockchain, because as I just said, the foundation that makes it good is that it's open source and transparent. Well, you don't want all of your information, even if it's encrypted, you don't want all your information sitting there. But there are ways to tie things like identity, right? And you're not keeping your whole identity on a blockchain, but when you go to interact, you're not going to get rid of a government issuing out birth certificates, issuing out driver's licenses. They're going to do that as part of their core function, right? But what we can maybe start doing is letting the government do what they do there, your college with your credentials doing what they do, but then you can empower the use case of an NFT to verify the information that only the government or the college or your doctor, right? Only the information they know that's verified. And so using a blockchain, using an NFT, you can, when you go to the bar, as the simplest example, instead of them showing you the full ID with all your information, they scan a QR code that's built on a blockchain that's verified by the local government agency that says, yep, over 21, because that's all they need to know. They don't need to trust you, right? All they need to know is this is a trustless system. It's scanned, it's verified. I just pinged it. Yes, the government replied, ping, yes, over 21. Good to go. Same thing when you go into the hospital, as I know what's important to you is a lot of your DNA and genetic records. There's an old question I used to ask in my consulting business when I used to deal with like artists and entrepreneurs and all that. And many of you may have heard it. What does McDonald's sell? Right? Most people would say burgers or fries or food. All that's wrong. McDonald's is not in the business of food. McDonald's is the largest real estate rental agency on the planet. They sell real estate, right? The franchisee sells food, right? McDonald's sells the real estate. And so if you're in competition with McDonald's, you want to build a better McDonald's, and you go in with the mindset, I'm going to sell food, well, you've already lost. Who cares you made a better burger? They don't sell burgers. They sell real estate, right? It's the same thing. So ask that about everything. What do hospitals sell? Health services? Well, we all know that's a joke, right? They sell access to your medical records. And if you don't believe me, go to the hospital you've been to and just for the next time you do a check-in, use an entirely different hospital system. Watch the fight for your medical records you have to go through for your medical records, right? So imagine instead of the hospital controlling your data, that was something you verified and you self-custodied, just like you could do with your crypto. And now when you go to the doctor, instead of giving them over everything and letting them do with what they will, you only give them the information they need to provide the service you want them to serve. And then when you're done, you can retract that permission. right? You take that permission back. It doesn't just like, here, do it all. So that's a huge way NFTs can help. And then, as we talked about before, Anita, there are some actual legislators who are working as part of, they have these huge crypto / privacy initiatives they're trying to pass through Congress. And part of it is exactly that. By default, taking away a third party's right to sell, especially your health information. That should be something that you explicitly have to turn over, not by default turn over. It's not an opt-out system. It should be an opt-in system, right? So it's going to be a mixture that, to get to really where I think you want it to be, it's going to have to be a mixture of our local politics and our technological front that makes that happen. But NFTs, again, you got to think bigger than JPEGs. If you can use blockchain as an identity verification system, you know, you can start to change a lot of the dynamics of who controls what. So I hope that sort of answered it. I will post my website address and everything, and I'll tell about some events that we have coming up. I see somebody mentioned exchanges. I think that was when we were talking about other things. That's why governments went after it. As the young lady was asking earlier about the car and being able to buy things with Bitcoin. Remember, the point of any open, censorship-resistant, permissionless cryptocurrency is to do peer-to-peer transactions. Exchanges that many people have become comfortable with, Coinbase, Cash App, Gemini, Kraken, Binance, whatever, these are new middlemen. They're just new banks. And so if you're going to, once you go through that system, you're sort of self-defeating the purpose of what crypto is really all about. You don't have to buy Bitcoin. And technically speaking, you never buy Bitcoin. No more than if you ever go to Canada or go to a different country and you take your dollars and convert it to the local currency. If I'm going to Canada, I'm not buying Canadian dollars with my US dollars, I'm exchanging them, right? I'm just switching this value store for another value store. So you're not buying Bitcoin, you're just transferring the value store in the dollar to a digital currency. And you can do that in many different ways. We used to, and we'll probably be bringing back this summer, we used to do a OTC meetup once a week, where we would find a hub, maybe on Wayne State, maybe, when it's nice out, we might do it outside. Or if you're interested in buying or selling crypto, you just come meet and you buy and sell it directly. There's no exchange. If I'm going to transfer some Bitcoin to you for some dollars, I'm not going to ask you for your ID because I don't need to know it. I don't need to know your living arrangements. I don't need to know your last billing address. Come to me. You get, maybe I want to buy the car, but the person I want to buy the car for won't accept my Bitcoin. So I need dollars. You, on the other hand, want some Bitcoin because you want to preserve your wealth. We can meet, and now we have a very peer-to-peer way. I'll give it to you. You'll send me the Bitcoin, or I'll send you the Bitcoin. You'll give me the money. Because it's a trustless system, all you have to do is, I'll send you the Bitcoin. Once you see in your wallet, right, on your mobile device, once you see that Bitcoin is there, or XRP, or whichever cryptocurrency you're trading for, once you see it's there, it's there. You don't have to trust. You know what I mean? It's a big differentiation between that and like banks. When you check your bank account balance, you go to Bank of America and check your balance, how do you know what they're telling you is true? You don't. They have a ledger. They know where all the money is, but all they're telling you is this one little piece that you can't verify. That's an advantage of these peer-to-peer systems. You see it, it's there, settlement done, And that's true whether I'm giving cash for Bitcoin or cars for Bitcoin. You know? But yes, governments will go after the exchanges because that is an exchange. Coinbase is not crypto. Coinbase is a value extracting middleman who's trying to make life easier for you in a service. I'm not telling you you don't need the service, but realize once you enter into that, you're back in the traditional finance system. And Patriot Act absolutely made it worse, as most laws make most things worse. I see a raised hand, but I don't know if I can bring you up or do whatever, but that's Lori.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Does your organization teach like peer-to-peer, transacting and all that? Because I'm not familiar with that at all.
Absolutely. We have a bunch of preset presentations that we do, but then if anybody contacts us like, hey, I myself or this small group or this large group want to know about XYZ, we will custom make something, anything dealing with related to blockchain. And we do a lot of financial literacy. Maybe we won't talk much about crypto. We'll just talk about what is money. I can go on for about 4 hours talking about money without mentioning Bitcoin or crypto once. And digital literacy, things like privacy, security, because these are all key fundamental things that tie together.
Okay. Because I purchased some on Unstoppable Domain. I purchased some crypto names and I want to sell them, but I don't have a clue about like the what is it, the MetaMask and all that. I'm not familiar with any of that, so I'm kind of stuck.
Yep. Reach out. Come to the website. I'm going to, if everybody doesn't mind, I'm going to type in the website. It's here on. Well, I don't know if I'm still sharing my screen or not, but I'm typing in the website into the chat. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And then reach out. I'm happy to work it out. Detroit Blank. I'm sorry. I'm not good at talking and typing. So there's the direct website. There's a contact form there. You can just reach out. And we're happy to go back more and find out more and whatnot. Here, I'll share my screen one more time too, just in case you want to see it. And so, right here, the tab. DetroitBlockchainCenter.org is our website. So you can always go there and see what contact us, and happy to talk. Of course, I lost my chat box. Yeah, Patriot Act made it worse. Monetization of personal info. Everything's monetized. And I do want to make one of the things that brought me to this again. Well, what brought me to it was the money. But what got me into it and got me serious about it was the revolutionary aspects of it. You'll hear a lot of people talk about like the downsides of capitalism, and it's not that there aren't downsides, but what most people complain about ends up really being cronyism, not capitalism. And one of the experiences that really, really sold me on this entire ecosystem was in 2017. There were 2 events we did in Detroit. And one of them was just more about Bitcoin proper or whatever. And there was this couple who was traveling back to like Colorado. They were in Canada. They came through Michigan. They stopped through. And, we were all talking. And these were self-described hardcore libertarian capitalists. Like, get rid of all regulations, open capitalist systems, and they made all of their claims and arguments on why Bitcoin and blockchain systems was the way for everything that they saw. The following week, I was a guest speaker at another meetup around blockchain, and one of the other guest speakers was a hardcore, pure socialist, not a democratic socialist, like pure socialist, open farming. And he was making the case for why Bitcoin and blockchain technologies was the thing we needed to make the world the way he envisioned it. And this was in a week span. And so what does that mean when you have one thing where two people who are ideologically polar opposites look at one thing and like, this is the answer? All that convinced me of is this is the answer, because it's a tool, right? This isn't, people will try to make anything political that they can. They'll try to make anything tribal that they can. But at the end of the day, most things that we deal with, they're tools. Bitcoin is a tool. If I want a world, I did a lot of studying, especially in my 20s, about the history of Blacks in America, all the way from like the Egyptian, Cultural Revolution to, there's a book I like called Guns, Germs, and Steel that sort of breaks down how things economically ended up the way they ended up. And, it has little to do with genetics. It has a lot to do with economies. Everything you'll find ties sort of back to money. And it all comes down to, for me, why are we in the position we are in? Why can't we seem to break out of it? And it's because you don't control something. And for the first time again in history, you have the ability to control your financial freedoms. And once you free the money, free the world, sort of the system. When you have, yes, with Bitcoin, criminals can use it to evade government rules and sanctions. But I'm okay with that, right? Just like I'm okay with not empowering police departments to use facial technologies to make their jobs easier. I want police when I need police, but I'm more concerned about my security, safety, privacy, that of my sons, my daughter, my friends, than I am about making their life easier. And it's the same thing with the financial security. If Bitcoin can empower the people that I care about who have been savagely cut off from economic systems, if this can empower them, I'm not so much worried that it makes the federal government's job a little bit harder to track down a scammer. Your job's harder, work harder, right? These are some key things that are really fundamental in freedoms. Just like most people get it with freedom of speech. Freedom of speech means I got to be able to tolerate the things I don't like to hear too, if I want to be able to speak out when it's passionate to me. And who knows, politicians change. And just because a politician right now might be aligned with all of your ideologies, in 2 more years, maybe not. And you want to be able to be as free as possible. And there's nothing freer. There's nothing freer than the ability to transact and protect your property. And this is it. Sorry, don't let me get off on tangents because I'll go on a soapbox and I won't get down. Any other questions, clarities, comments, disagreements? I'm open to it all.
All right, correct the echo. Well, thank you so much. Oh my, I know that this should be something making us think, because yes, like Nate said, they can write a check tomorrow. And no matter what amount we say we want, they give it to us. But what is that dollar worth?
Can I bring up a point?
They give us the land, 5 states in the South, or give you the money so you could go back to Africa. And then while you're on the boat in the middle of the Atlantic, take it all away, or start a war over in Africa so you can't even go back home. How do you keep from having reparations taken away? Or just our freedom of speech. We're trying to have an event right here, right now, and they're vindictive comedians too. I call it the Democrats. They just stood me up for everything. And that's how it winds up being the Anita Bell Show. But that's okay. I didn't want to do it as a one-woman show, but we're about to go into the next part. I wanted to thank Nate for at least giving us the information that we need to think outside the box, that we have to protect our reparations as we're being genocided. And reparations can solve genocide, but we don't want to keep going through this cycle. We want to keep what we have. We had the gold. They just came with a gun. So now we're going to talk from another perspective. I didn't want to present to you how to change guns and everything, because no, we're not going to talk about self-defense from that way. We're going to talk about self-defense from the humor way. And hopefully you can hear the jokes. We're going to do a little skit. And all of my co-stars stood me up. So we don't have even the King of Mars today, but that's all right. Democrats know we don't have to keep laughing at each other, because in the end, when the check is written, whether it's in crypto and they're sending you Bitcoin, whether they're sending you gold, whether they're sending you dollars, whether they're sending you the 40 acres and a mule, whatever they're sending us, that we're going to be able to buy it together and keep it together. We have to do that together. So we're all in this together, even when we're fighting over Reparations Awareness Day. Okay, so we're about to do a skit from Exodus to Mars. As I tell people all the time when they're asking me, is it true the Martians are black? Let's talk about it from this way. Does it matter? Does it matter? When you turn on Star Trek, you don't ask if it's true. When you turn on Friends, you don't ask if it's true. When you turn on, oh goodness, another show, Family Matters, let's say, and Steve Urkel saying, did I do that? Do you ask if it's true? No, you look at the entertainment, and sometimes they give you a story that has a lesson to it. So Shonda Rhimes and Scandal, do you ask if it's true? No, you listen to the lesson. And so this again is a story that has a lesson, like Aesop's fables. So Exodus to Mars, maybe we will go there one day. Maybe we'll go there tomorrow, but listen to the lesson. All right, I am the queen of the sky. I'm about to get some psychotherapy from the universe. All right, girls, yo, we up. Not yet. Wait your cue. All right, this is going to be live, and we'll fix it in post-op. So it's live right now. And let me go back to my script. No, it's not memorized. I wrote it this morning. So, and I can't do this with my glasses on. All right. Watch for your cues, girls.
Okay.
Okay. May I help you? Yes, I'm here for a friend. Oops. Does your friend have a name? Oh, no, this is funny to me. Yes, Earth. What's wrong with Earth? Earth adopted these children. They're teenagers and they're pretty bad. Maybe they're 15. Yeah, how did you know? They're usually rebellious at 15. Well, what you're going to have to do is give them a spanking. Oh no, we can't do that. We just talk to them and give them a timeout. We are very nonviolent, my husband and I. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Now, let me tell you, Earth, if your children get loose in the universe, we'll take care of that piece of business. So it's up to you. You're going to either control your children or we will. Yes, ancestors. Gretch, baby,
F you.
I need to talk to you.
F you.
Gretch, I told you I'm your mother, and that's not a very respectful way to talk to me. So I need you to apologize. You're not in the shot, Trin. Got to get closer to Elon.
She doesn't mean it. She's
Uh-oh.
giving you.
We can't see you. You're standing in front of Elon. Yeah, okay, there you go. Now, there you go.
She doesn't mean it. She's giving you the middle finger, but she's laughing.
I hate you, Elon. You're such a tattletale.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, why did I adopt these children, God? They're not adopted. They're yours. Gretchen, Esther, Whitmer, bring your black ass down here.
Haha, I'm not black.
You will be by the time I get through with you.
What the hell does that mean?
What does she mean? I don't know.
Come on, tattletale. I need you.
I can't read minds yet. Working on it. Wait. She's outside. She's tugging on a tree.
What?
I think she's going to hit you with the tree.
Mom?
Yep, she's mad. She's coming back swinging a tree branch. And Daddy's taking off his asteroid belt.
Mommy!
Try crying.
Try crying.
Not for me.
Mommy, I'm sorry.
Girl, one way to turn white black is by giving you some blue.
Yes, Mommy.
Were you really going to hit her with that tree?
A whipping, a switch hurts less than an asteroid. And it hurts less than the Black universe. The end.
The end.
All right. My co-stars are going to introduce themselves. Trinity, come back on camera. All right. This is
Trinity.
Trinity Cloud, and this is
Asha.
all right. 2 voters in the 13th Congressional District. All right, ladies, have a seat. All right.
That was crazy.
All right, that was funny. At least right here it was funny. Oh, I'll keep it on for a minute. All right. So here is the time when we were supposed to have a member from the Democratic Party. He is here? Oh, Empress is here. All right. So this is when we were supposed to have information about the proposal, the reparations proposal being presented in the state of Michigan legislature. And notice how I have black balls being thrown at me, or some blacks balls being thrown at me. And so that's okay. It must hurt them more than it hurts me. So, and it does hurt, but that's okay. One of the things that I told my son's father, who happens to be chief of staff for Michigan State Senator Betty Jean Alexander, is that melanin is being extracted from humans by piracy through the medical community. When we have procedures such as having our blood drawn, having the plasma, when we donate plasma, they're not telling you that you actually have a more valuable plasma because it has melanin in it. The closest we got to any admission of that was when Donald Trump asked the question that got a lot of teasing, asked the question, well, why can't we just get bleach and sunshine into the body? Well, bleach will kill you, but the way to get sunshine in the body, Donald, you can be born with this. I was, anyway. That's how I get sunshine in the body. And then does that give me extra immunity for certain diseases, and that then be pirated from my body, and someone else sells it, gets a whole lot of money for it, $400 a gram. Do you know how much a gram is? Really? Depending on, of course, hair is not pure melanin. There's keratin in here, and that all of that can be separated out. But just at the barber shops and beauty shops alone, our hair can be worth $400 a gram, but you're not seeing any of that money. One way to change that instantly is have a melanin exchange. A melanin exchange then becomes like corn, like gold, like platinum, and all of the stocks on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, or the NASDAQ, or the S&P. We then become something that's reported on Monday through Friday from 9:30 till 4. And then exchanges going on there afterwards. The exchanges can be in dollars, in cryptos, in land, in gold, whatever. Because now we're getting something from the exchange. And how do you fix that? With a law. A law. A law. How much did that cost? Well, everybody that's been stealing from you can't get no money off of that. So they don't want the law to be changed. So that's why all of this sabotage has been going on. Another law I said that could easily be changed is to go ahead and let there be polygamy. We are being genocided. Heterosexual Black men are an endangered species. If I'm going to get married, I'm supposed to wait during my fertile lifetime for one man to love only me for the rest of my life. I tried and failed. But if one man can have 2, 3, 4, I won't say ever many he can afford, because all of these families, these blended families, have to work together. And guess what, men? It is a democracy. Every man is fantasizing, woo, 4 women, but those 4 women get together. And if it's a democracy, you're outnumbered. I'll just get more women. You were better off with just one. And that's how this whole thing started off, with monogamy. They were better off with just one. But it takes knowing 1,000 at one time to realize even Solomon was in a democracy. All right. So he thought he was king with 1,000 queens and a mother. Oh no, you're in a democracy. So everybody's fantasy is about to come true. It's not my fantasy, but then neither is being alone on Saturday night. So what we're saying is that you can change a law. You changed a law to make it so that 2 men can get married. How much did it cost? You changed the law so that 2 women can get married. How much did it cost? So how much does it cost where 1 man can marry 2 women? These women are not married to each other. Let's be clear. So I'm not talking about a threesome. Y'all are grown, hush. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about nobody has to be alone anymore. Do this during a woman's fertile lifetime, so that she's not waiting until she's 80 for this man to finally come around to her. And what does she have left if he's 82? All right. So those were my 2 ideas that I presented to the Democratic Party. And as you can see, they support me wholeheartedly, because they want reparations so bad that they can't do something for free. Anyway. And I explained that part of my motivation for pushing all of this at a time like this is because I'm sick. I need to have surgery, but I want these laws changed so that I'm profiting off of what's being taken out of my body, not everybody else. That is a consent hell. And guess what? Doctors are woefully unable to figure that out because they went to medical school. Leave it to the lawyers, those people that have a law degree. I heard a girl named Gretchen Whitmer has one. I heard another person named Dana Nessel has one. Even Jocelyn Benson has one. Guess what? So do I. That's who sets the law. The doctors follow the law. So we have to do what we have to do. We can't just run away from each other. Or your idea of a Michigan version of HR 40 will take 37 years. And guess what? If I'm waiting on that law to change, I ain't got 37 years to wait for that. Okay. And I came up with 37 years because that's how long it took the United States to ratify the treaty, the anti-genocide treaty. So 37 years. We're only at 32 years, I believe. Anyway, 32, 33 for HR 40, finally getting out of committee. Yes. All right. We're now 33 years closer. Okay. I can wait. I've got 33 more years. Anyway. Well, since no one else is here, I won't grab the grandchildren and dance to Jerusalem. And you saw that little dance I just did. I'm tired. So we have Empress Chi, who's going to finish us out with talking about Black genocide and how we're going to address 21 issues of solving genocide through the Million Woman March event that she has coming later this year. Let's start setting our calendars and our budgets now. All right, would you bring on Empress Chi?
There she is right there, but she is not quite ready.
Oh, she's not, she's still muted.
Let's see what's happening with her. We asked her to unmute.
Yes, please unmute.
Video or
And start your video. Oh.
she wasn't ready, y'all.
Oh.
We'll let her know that she got a minute or so.
All right, she does have a minute or so. For those who were not with us yesterday, we talked about genocide and what it is. So I will redefine it again. Genocide is when you're killing off a gene pool. So gene is the root word for genocide, and you're killing off a particular ethnic group or nation of people. And it defines, and there is a treaty within the United Nations, a treaty that addresses genocide. The United Nations has a list of all of the nations that have signed the treaty. The United States signed the treaty because the president can sign a treaty. And that happened in 1951. So in a way, you can look at everything that happened to Black people since 1951, including the assassinations and the lynchings from people like Emmett Till in 1955. In a way, because some people are like, we need a treaty, we need a treaty, we're not a nation, we need to be a nation, and then we can have a treaty. In a way, we are already protected by a treaty because that issue was addressed because of what happened to Jews in Europe. And I won't say just Jews, because gypsies and a lot of other people got exterminated under the final solution that Hitler was implementing throughout Europe. Well, to stop the war, yes, you had a few Jewish inventors, Albert Einstein, and I can't remember Oppenheimer's first name, but these two wanted a weapon that can be used against Germany to avenge the deaths of their people. Since they didn't have a nation, they gave that weapon to the United States. The backstory of Oppenheimer saying, I have become death. I have become the destroyer of worlds. That was not what was intended for that nuclear bomb to fall on Japan. So in effect, the American government genocided more people in 3 days than Hitler did over the course of 12 years. So you have two genocidal entities and a history of making reparations to the people that remain or survived from their acts of genocide. We're asking not just for reparations for slavery. If you're looking at it on a state level, Michigan, on a state level, officially was not a slave state. But does that mean what they do to us is okay? It's not okay. Now, is Empress ready?
Nope.
Nope. All right. Well, no, it's not okay. No, it's not okay. The genocide case that is going to the World Court, because they now have a complaint procedure. This case now involves, of course, the CIA deliberately putting imported drugs in African-American communities and thereby causing Black genocide. Black genocide also, it's a civil rights case if we're talking about slavery, except that they did this even after those UN treaties. So this was something going on in the 1980s, highlighted by the Iran-Contra scandal that went on during a Republican presidential presidential 3 terms of Ronald Reagan and then George Herbert Walker Bush. So talking about that, but the genocide from drugs didn't stop when Bush the first left office. So are we still being genocided by a pandemic where Blacks, who comprise only 14% of Michigan's population, make up 40% of the deaths from the coronavirus? Are we still being genocided? What if we had a Republican governor and he couldn't figure out how to give clean water to a city like Flint that was 60% Black? So you have 40% of other people collateral damage. And yet that doesn't change the fact that the water was poisoned. What are we doing about that? And while we're doing something about that, because he is being brought up on charges, and there has been a lawsuit and those domestic measures have been resolved, these are our human rights. So Benton Harbor has a human right to clean water. And we can't just say, oh, this is a Democratic governor and this is all about politics. My water is not about which political party is in office. No. And it shouldn't be that way with you either, since water is used to make formula, and formula goes into our babies, and that brain damage that the lead-based water causes is permanent for children. And then if that child grows up and goes and shoots somebody in the face, we want to call a child a monster. But is the monster the one who put the lead in the baby's water? I'm just saying. So, is Empress ready? No, it's not working.
She's not answering.
She's not answering. I'm wondering if she's trying to text me and I'm talking. All right. Well, let's just do it this way. Open up the floor and we'll let her talk from the floor. I wanted her camera on, but let's just let her talk from the floor, and those who have questions, in case her mic's not working now, that would be bad. But those who have questions, those who have comments, those who have something that they feel and they want to say. And I should limit that because you know there's going to be some disruptors that might have something they want to say. But we all have to do this together. Hopefully the Democrats will save my life, because it won't really look good to kill the person that's bringing an anti-genocide case to the World Court. It wouldn't look good to kill that person. So I didn't mean mean to make a game out of reparations using my own life, but other people are playing games with our lives. Come on. When do we take control of the game? We have to do it during our lifetimes. At least that's what I'm going to do. All right. So are any questions available? Where you two going? All right.
Should be ready to wrap up by then.
Listen to my audience. Anyway. All right. Any questions, any comments? And I know it's time to wrap up when the young people are losing attention. All right. Any questions or comments? No hands up?
No hands up.
Empress Chi, does she have a mic?
We asked her to unmute and we asked her to turn her video. I guess she's.
Are you able to unmute, Empress? See, I don't have my glasses on. I can't see a thing.
Right.
I'm trying to be cute right now.
She's ready to go. I mean, we could bring her pin her in, but there she is waiting.
Okay.
She's asked to unmute. She's asked to show video. Apparently she's away from her phone.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, she's not able to speak, or we're not hearing her.
There she is. There she is.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes?
we hear you.
Okay, finally. All right, greetings, everyone. So it's been really interesting and difficult to get in today for some reason. I'm not able to do the PowerPoint. I'm on my tablet and not on my laptop. My laptop is acting really crazy. But I wanted the brother that was just on a little while ago. Oh my gosh, I loved his presentation and I'm looking forward to building with him. What I'd like to do is to kind of just add a little bit some of what he said, but I'm going to take it in just a little different direction. And it is this, our position with the We Charge Genocide 21 is that we are, of course, dealing with what presently exists in terms of law as we know it. But what makes us a little different in our position and in the way that we are moving forward is that we are literally citing human rights violations. So unlike Tulsa and other communities, Black communities that were destroyed by this government, our position is we are citing the government with crimes against humanity. What that does, it gives us leverage with other countries. For example, in 2000, Benin was, if not the first country, certainly one of the first to literally have an ambassador to come to the United States to do a formal apology for their role in any type of the transatlantic slave trade. So whether they did or didn't, because there was so much, around it, any involvement that a king or whomever might have had, they literally sent out a representative to say, if they had any role, they want they're issuing a formal apology and prepared to do whatever to rectify any harm. Now that was in 2000. Since then, 4 other nations, African nations, have done the same thing. So our position is we want to now follow up. So the brother's absolutely correct when he says we can't defend anything. If we get something, we can't defend it. Well, we've learned from those who have come before us, and what we know is that's definitely something we must do. Therefore, to begin to develop allies with other countries in our demand for reparatory justice, it gives us a better capability to defend ourselves. Why? As the brother indicated, anything these people give us or award us or whatever you want to call it, they can figure out a way to take it back. That's why when you look at our information, it says irreversible or irrevocable justice. So we're very clear that we cannot use their constitution beyond a certain point. It makes no sense to do that in the 21st century. We do have to use some of the framework, and as the brother indicated, there's some processes that we definitely can use to our advantage. However, we have, as I said the other day, we have two hands, two arms. There's no one way to do this. This is a holistic approach, which means we have to use different apparatuses, as the brother indicated earlier in talking about cryptocurrency, etc. Absolutely. Also, again, in making certain that we invest collectively. So yes, individual wealth by all means. Now, one thing I will disagree with a little in that is about capitalism. I think we have to be very clear in identifying what type of capitalism are we talking about and call a spade a spade. When we get into the aspect of capitalism that is de facto, in as such, it is exploitive, etc., then that is what it is. What we have to look at, of course, is just like with democracy, just like with socialism, there's different types. There's no one type of democracy. There's a fundamental concept to it, but there's different types, as with socialism. So again, we have to be very clear that when we're talking about capitalism, as it pertains to the slave trade, let's be real clear. There's no getting around that. No getting around it whatsoever. And so again, we are astute enough to make certain that we define and also make certain that we clarify what we're saying when we say that we charge genocide 21. Again, there are 21 areas, 21 points. Now, I would be remiss if I did not indicate plans of action, which again, we do a session every month that we invite folks to attend that talks about what our position is, what our methodology is, etc. We are the first in the 21st century to now bring forward what's known as a pre-plebiscite. We will hold our pre-plebiscite convention in September 1 through the 4th. Why? Because no one group can represent all Black folks. I mean, that's just not going to happen. So what we know is we have put out the positions, the strategies, the plans of action, and those who feel like that's something I want to do or be involved with, then so be it. And so ultimately, we will have what has been demonstrated previously, something like a provisional government, because our position in the R4J concept is to make certain that we deal with self-determination, self-governance, and self-defense. So in order to do that, we also have to define ourselves. We can't just say, well, we want reparations. We who? How would other people relate to us? Who are we? And so since the RNA and other entities have shown us the necessity, the possibility of formulating provisional governments or civic societies or whatever other terminology or concept we want to come up with, but we do have to come up with something. We can't just say, we Black folks. I mean, we can, but I'm saying again, for the sake of doing business, for the sake of being in a position to maneuver as a collective, we have to make certain that we are able to be recognized as such. So the pre-plebiscite will enable us to vote. The group of folk that are in agreement with our position, with our strategy, etc., at least at this point in time, they will be able to vote on certain key functions and principles, such as, what do we want to be called? Do we want to be called African American or African North American? Do we want to be classified as members of the government or of the land base? And again, because we are citing violations against us, that gives us the capability to not follow all of the formats that everybody else does, because we're seeking remedies. We're seeking resolutions. Therefore, we had the capability to put in a different type of application in what we do. But we have to cite genocide. We have to cite crimes against humanity, and that is the purpose of the We Charge Genocide 21. So this is like a 3-year process minimally, but in that 3-year process, we will be able to accumulate not only the data, not only the statistics, not only the research pieces from all over the US, every city that's involved with the Black Human Rights Cadre Commission or whatever, they will have the responsibility of accumulating data in their city, in their state, on slavery, prisons, housing/homelessness, etc. So that when this is presented, we can present a full package, not just about COINTELPRO, which we will, not just about a medical apartheid, which we will. We can cite the case of Henrietta Lacks, Tuskegee, and so forth. All of these things are being put into one kind of package so that when we go forward to countries, to nations, not just the United Nations, but also with individual nations. Because again, we do want to talk about investment in land and other things that would also strengthen their position. So we're not doing things here in the US and not even in the virtual context. We're talking about literally connecting to our roots and doing business. So that gives you a general idea of what the We Charge Genocide 21 project is. Again, presently, as a plan of action, we are looking to accumulate our first 1 million signatures that we will take to the United Nations with the letter of intent to begin to put them and others on notice. Also know that our formula, R4J, is multi-layered. So not only are we talking about the US government, we're talking about corporations. We're also talking about institutions, such as the involvement of churches. They too will be served. Not yet, but to give you a general idea as to how holistic and how multi-layered this really is. Again, to deal with a pre-plebiscite, which means in 3 years we will hold an actual plebiscite, at least that's the projection. This will begin a process for us to begin to formulate the necessary tools to really fight this government in a way that is just perhaps a little different. And so as we build in our communities, because that's one of our first focuses, building in our communities, educating our people in our communities. As the brother indicated, yes, about money, finance, all of that. But here's an area that most don't focus as much on, and we shall, and that is our mentalities. As it's been indicated, we can have all the money in the world. We have people right now that have millions and millions of dollars. But how is that going to benefit us as a people? How does that connect to the fact of the atrocities that have been inflicted upon us? So we have to make certain that there are processes where we can begin to address the psychological, the trauma, drama, whatever you want to call it, as we proceed. So we're connecting with the National Association of Black Psychiatrists, the National Association of Black Psychologists, the National Association of Black Social Workers, because this process of reparations, reparatory justice is not just about money, nor is it just about assets. It has also to do with us as a whole, becoming a whole being. And so these other areas must be dealt with adequately. So I'm going to pause right there and see if there's any questions or comments, because I know we need to close out shortly. And again, I do a radio program every Saturday night. We Charge Genocide is a part of that program, although it's a newer part, but we've had it for the past 13 years. It's called New Day, Resurrection and Liberation. And it's heard on Blog Talk Radio and also via podcast. So again, I'm going to open up the floor for anyone that has a question or a comment. Okay. I see a hand up. Sister Lori?
Can you hear
I
me?
don't know if you can. Okay, there you go.
Can you repeat your radio show? Did you say Block Talk
Absolutely.
or Blog Talk?
BLOG Talk.
Blog Talk.
So it's
okay.
www.blogtalkradio.com/Empress Chi.
Got it.
And or you can call in on your phone, and that number is 319-527-6189. We are now in our 13th year of independent broadcasting. Tonight, as our guest, we'll have Baba Willie Ricks, who many will know from back in the day. Of course, he was a member of SNCC. He was with Dr. King. He was with Brother Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael. And when you talk about or hear the phrase Black Power, he and Stokely Carmichael were the two that popularized that slogan, Black Power.
Awesome. And congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And you said tonight.
Well, this year is the 25-year anniversary of the Million Woman March, and we are having a reunion. So we definitely, our sisters, now it's time. It took us, unfortunately, 2 decades to put some things in place, but as most know about when you're developing something for our people, you will get sabotaged, you will have infiltrated, and this is what happened with the Million Woman March. People were sent in to dismantle it, to destroy it, and they did a good job in disrupting things, taking things off point for a while. But we persevered, and we've done so independently, and now we're able now to bring forward the first global movement for women and girls of African descent worldwide.
Awesome. Now, what time did you say the radio? What time is it tonight? What time?
10:30 p.m. Eastern time. And if you can't catch it live, it's okay. All of our programs are archived. So you're able to hear 13 years of programming. Just go to the on-demand section of the website.
Will do. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, more questions or comments? Okay, if anyone is interested in being involved with the We Genocide Project, you can email us at nationalmwm@aol.com. Again, nationalmwm@aol.com, or you can email us at our National Black Human Rights Project, which is ndhrproject@gmail.com.
All right. It looks like she froze. Okay, I'm sorry about that. All right. As you can imagine, gmail.com would have been the end of that sentence.
Can you hear me now?
But we will also put the contact information in with the contact information even for all of our speakers this weekend in with the recording, so that those people who want to can then follow up with everyone that graced our program today. I have so many people to thank. Oh, so many people to thank. But first, we're starting off with UIN for using their studios. Wow, we're at the end and we have quiet. Oh boy, the Democrats are hilarious. I am
Sister Anita, I am back.
And let's see, we have also my granddaughter and Laisha. Asha. Okay, I did it wrong anyway, even though I practiced. Just Asha. She said Trinity and Asha. All right. Yes, I'm messing it up even as I'm trying to correct it. So,
Sister Anita, can you hear me?
how did you
Can you
teach
hear
school
me?
all those years and read attendance and get it right? Anyway, so Empress is ready to give us some final words. And then if Nate is still with us to give us some final words and thanking, you're going to get more formal thanks in a few days, but thanking you for taking time out of your busy schedules for our meager efforts at trying to put on a Reparations Awareness Day in the midst of a censorship society. So we tried, and it will be available, and we will let the word go out where somebody can listen to it if they want to. All right, so any final words from Empress, and then if Nate is still here.
I see someone has their hand up, Sister Beulah, I believe.
Unfortunately, I missed your information. Could you give me the name of your organization? And you said something about a podcast tonight?
Yes, the organization is the Original and Historic Million Woman March.
Original,
and the campaign,
Historic
Woman March.
Women's March.
No, Million Woman. WOMAN. Just like the Million Man. Million Woman March.
Okay.
And the campaign that I talked about is our campaign called We Charge Genocide 21.
Recharge Genocide 21. Okay. And there is going to be a podcast tonight?
Yep. Every Saturday night for at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And it's at www.blogtalkradio.com.
Blog Talk Radio. Okay, Talk Radio. I'm familiar with that. Radio.com. Slash who?
Empress Chi.
Empress.
EMPRESSCHI.
CHI. Okay. Got that. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome.
Yeah, how you, Juanita?
Okay, so in closing, family, I just hope everyone will support our project. It not only honors our ancestors, but it helps to make certain that we respect ourselves today, as well as prepare for the future. It's a multi-level, multi-layered operation, 21 points, 21 areas of genocide. Gentrification is one of them as well. And we have the documentation from 7 cities to back up why we call gentrification genocide. Genocide, if you take the first 3 letters, which is what my presentation would have been if I had the PowerPoint, but to make it simpler, to simplify for you, we have to understand, understand, whichever stand you want to make, what it is that we're talking about in order to have the impact. And that is to know what these words really are all across the board. So when we say genocide, you have to know that the first 3 letters, GEN, will represent either life and or death for the most part, either the continuation of life or the ending of life. For example, generations, genealogy, genes. In other words, Genesis, beginning. So GEN is a very, very powerful phrase or insertion. When you understand the impact of it, it gives you a capability to address some things in a different manner. So this is why when we do our sessions, we make sure that people really get clarity on what we're talking about and why. When we say genocide, you're talking about both the end of something, primarily intentionally, so that there can be a beginning of something. Remember, our people being kidnapped and brought here was genocide. For what? For the beginning of a new nation. So simultaneously, two things are happening at one time. And it's sort of like a paradox, which is why we have to think in a manner that enables us, again, to do two things minimally at one time. While we are fighting the enemy that I call our unnatural enemy, we have to also fight the enemies within, both internally, within our community, sometimes even within our family. And that's a whole nother topic for another day, but it's real talk. And until we begin to address these situations, not only critically, but realistically, we will not be able to advance the people as we need to, and as mandated in this day and age. So that's it for me, family. I thank you all. Sister Anita, much love and respect to you as my sister. The Million Woman March has had a serious battle and journey over these past 25 years, learning things that we had no intention of really learning, understanding, but because we were called by our ancestors to do this work, we had to go through this process. And so now here we are, representing and raising up the mother of civilization, as only we can do. Back to you, Sister Anita.
Is my mic is working because I'm echoing? All right.
We hear you a little bit.
Okay, he's fixing it.
Right.
All right, now you should be able to hear me. Okay, everyone.
Yeah.
It has been fun and funny. All right, at least this is funny. My granddaughter asked me, how do you feel? Where is everybody? I said, exactly where I expected them to be. That's sad. But if they come up with a reparations plan that takes 30-something years, well, that will kill me. And that's sort of why I'm going ahead to the United Nations anyway. And they're protecting, they think I'm after the governor. Oh, it's not even, goodness, this stuff started long before the Queen of the Great Lakes was inaugurated. So this is not about her. It just happens to be this time. And tag, you're it. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Because as Empress is even saying, we are the mother. I'm not asking you for permission. I'm telling you what you gotta do, because you rather I spank you than the universe. Or you really don't want your daddy to throw an asteroid. Come on now, because it's easier for mama. No, it's easier for daddy to make another you than it is for mama. So he don't give a damn. He'll throw it. All right. I think Empress wanted to give us some last words, and then I hope, I know I got to pay staff overtime, so it's okay, but we will go ahead and have Empress say some words, and then if anyone else, and then we'll do the Harambe. All right, Empress.
Well, actually, no, I was good. I was done, but I will remind everyone, please put on your calendar, September 1 through the 4th. We charge genocide in Washington, D.C., and we'll also be doing some on Zoom and Facebook and Instagram. but we will assemble, hopefully. You never know with COVID, but the plan is to assemble in Washington, D.C. Labor Day weekend. And we select a date for a reason, labor. We cannot ever let this government or anyone else dismiss or put aside the brutal labor that our people were that were inflicted upon our people. And so Labor Day weekend will be in Washington, D.C., September 1st through the 4th for the Recharge Genocide Summit. We will begin now putting committees together in your city. So again, if you're interested in being a part of the task forces that are being now put together, please contact us, nationalwm@aol.com. Lastly, there's also going to be a rally that weekend, and that'll be international because Black folks in the U.S. have supported other people for as long as we can remember when it comes to their fighting for their rights or justice. It's time now that the country support us. And that's what we're saying. We want our reparations, our preparatory justice here in America. We want the issue of human rights addressed. We're calling on Venezuela, we're calling on Cuba, we're calling on South Africa, we're calling on every country where Black folks have done marches, rallies, donated towards their plight. It's our turn now. Support us in solidarity. All right.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Empress Chi. And I mean, we thank Nate Talbot from the Detroit Blockchain Center. We also thank Brother Hashem Ali Jabbar, who joined us and gave us the words. It was just so dynamic to me. I hope you were here, where we had a broad section even of religion, talking about our story from our spiritual perspectives and finding out that from our different journeys, we came to the same destination and the same conclusion. That's a very dynamic thing to happen among Black people. And I hope you got a chance to witness that no matter what you believe, if you have any kind of third eye, this is where you should be. All right. With that, we're going to close. It looks like the camera is set so I can sit down, so I can't stand up, but usually I stand up to do Harambe, and Harambe means let's all pull together. Among Black folks, that's hard because that's asking for Seth and Osar to be one. And right now, it depends on what time in the story you're in, because right now, it feels like Seth is really trying to chop off Black balls and throw them at Osset and tell her, ha ha, you can't have them. And I'm like, guess what? It really hurt him more than it hurt me. So stop castrating our Black men politically, economically. Stop genociding our Black men, and then enslaving the Black women and children. And then that little Black boy grows up. Oh, he's a threat. Here we go again. At some point, mama's gotta pick up a switch. And at some point, daddy's gonna throw an asteroid. All right. Let's all pull together. Is it true? Does it matter? And we're going to hold on to Harambe. He's adjusted the camera. Okay, we'll hold on to Harambe. I usually do it 7 times, but it feels so much stronger when it's all of us and you can't have all the mics on at one time because you know that's going to be some feedback. All right, so I'll say one Harambe, hold it, and then put it over and in your heart. Let's all pull together. Harambe! Thank you. Happy Reparations Awareness Day.
All right,
All clear?
recording stop.
Okay.
Okay, thank you much.
Thank you all for coming. And we're going to close the room, but I have some after business to take care of. And then I'm sure I'm going to get some text messages. All right. God bless y'all.